Good morning and welcome to the VIP seat. We're back here with season 2, episode 2 with Preston Holland and Jesse Neor. Preston, welcome back to the VIP seat.
Jesse, second time in a row. You didn't get rid of me after last week, so I hope that is a positive. Heard a lot of really good feedback on our first episode, so hopefully my hot takes did not scare too many people away.
I did too. I think they like the banter, they like the back and forth, and I like not having to schedule a new person every single week. This makes it a lot easier and honestly a lot more fun because you and I have very similar personalities and senses of things.
Exactly. Although, I mean, there were definitely some great guests, and we'll have to have a special guest on every once in a while for sure.
All right, folks. Well, with that, let's get to our first story of the day. Doug Gollin has been covering this for a long time, but I think it's finally come to a head. So, the founder of AeroVanti, Patrick Britton Harr, has officially been charged by the Department of Justice for defrauding Medicare, as well as running, there's some accusations of Ponzi schemes, but basically like a jet card program where he said he was going to invest in certain aircraft and didn't, allegedly. So it's interesting to see this report finally come out because I know that we've heard about it in the news for a long time, and here we go.
Yeah, I think this is a case of a COVID operator or a post-COVID operator that tried to ride the wave and might have, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure if it was ever well intentioned. I mean, if you have a history if you've got some color in your past, I'm not so sure that that's not a trend, right? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And I think that this is a fool me twice, shame on me situation. But took advantage of a lot of people who didn't know any better because you think, oh, this must be a well-intentioned person. They're obviously dealing with rich clientele, and so therefore I will send him a $150,000 wire for his top level jet card experiential thing, right? And so I don't know. It's unfortunate, but I think that if you've been in this industry long enough, it's not surprising.
Yeah, unfortunately, I find it amazing. I mean, he convinced over 100 people to pony up $150,000, not really having any history in the industry or background or evidence. I mean, that just kind of blows my mind that people just kind of throw that money out there.
He could have a great he could have a great he could have had a great career in sales, apparently, right? I mean, if you can convince people of that, you're pretty good at sales. I will tell you this one story, and this is a throwback. I think the last NBAA in Orlando. So that would have been 3 years ago. NBAA base. I hosted a interview show, and their booth happened to be right next to ours. And I have not been able to find it, but there exists somewhere in the world me interviewing this guy and asking him about his business. And I remember at the time, clear as day, I looked at my producer as soon as he walked off the set and I said, that interview can never see the light of day because I have no idea how they make money. Like it was like, the whole thing was like, look over here, this is awesome, we're amazing, private jets for super, I think it was like $1,800 an hour on a Piaggio. And I looked at him and I said, do you know what the fuel burn is on the Piaggio? I don't know off the top of my head, but I can do some pretty quick back of the napkin math and say that I don't think that makes sense. And he said,
Yeah.
oh, no, well, if we get, certain scale, then we're going to scale profitably and it's going to be great. And there's going to be so many experiences that you can, and then you get access to this yacht and, part of your membership is in the yacht. And I was like, I don't get it. And I think that it is a good lesson for people out there. If it is too good to be true, it probably is. And this is just another unfortunate scenario of that.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of looking at this and thinking to myself, I will not name names, but I will say that they're publicly traded companies that have a history of failed business models before they get into private aviation and sketchy backgrounds and all sorts of other things. I mean, this guy, before he allegedly defrauded customers in the aerospace industry, he defrauded Medicare allegedly, for doing these healthcare tests that weren't necessary. So it's like, sometimes these entrepreneurs, and again, look, he's not been convicted, innocent till proven guilty, but in some cases, you have people coming from a sketchy background entering private aviation because they see the dollar signs. They see a lot of wealth, they see a lot of money, people throwing around $150,000 wire transfers like it's nothing, because to a lot of people, it is nothing in this space. But I think we do have a tendency, again, not saying this guy in particular, he's not been charged yet, but we have a tendency for some sketchy folks to come into the industry trying to make bank on the rich people.
You know, Jesse, I think here's a really interesting thing that I found when I was reading this article. And if you don't subscribe yet to the VIP seat newsletter, you need to, so that you can get all of the links, the quick brief summaries of every story, and you can kind of read the sources. It's a great, super digestible version. So be sure to sign up to that. We're going to put it in the show notes. But one thing I found was really interesting. Did you notice that both situations were $15 million? So his Medicare billings were apparently, allegedly, $15 million. His jet card billings were $15 million. I'm sitting here going, there are some things in life that are a coincidence. There are some things that are not. And I'm not sure which one this is, but I'm going to say that both of those being the exact same number is interesting.
Well, look, he had projections and what he wanted to reach. And look, if nothing else comes of this, you do have to give the guy some credit for bringing in $15 million in jet cards.
Twice. He
Twice.
did it twice. I mean,
Twice.
he did 15 million in alleged COVID testing for senior citizens, and he did $15 million in jet card sales. I mean, like, shoot, put him in an enterprise SaaS role, and the guy's making bank. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I think you just chose the wrong career, buddy. Like, defrauding the government and then defrauding rich people, it's a great way to go to jail. But you turn that skill on selling camp software. I mean, like, good Lord. I mean, you're going to be printing.
Yeah, but according to the DOJ, he was using the funds to enjoy a lavish lifestyle, including his own private jet travel. So I don't think you can really do that working for a SaaS company, Preston.
That's very true. It's a really unfortunate thing too, is that this character, this persona, unfortunately, this is not the first one, and unfortunately, it's probably not going to be the last one, who feels as though if they sell the product, then they get to enjoy it and they have to consume it, be a consumer, and it's market research and things like that. That's really when, you start getting a lot of, interesting situations like this. It's kind of sketchy, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, people used to ask me all the time, how many times I flew on the Phenom when we were running Grandview. I'm like, never. I fly Southwest.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
it's a business. I'm not running this to fly on them. We're running this to make money, But
Yeah, people ask me
that's
all
a
the
good
time.
question to ask.
They're like, how often do you fly private? I said, the few times that my clients grace me with the opportunity to meet them somewhere in the middle of nowhere, jump on the plane with them to fly to another place in the middle of nowhere, and then I've got to fly, Spirit back to Atlanta and take an Uber home. Like, that's kind of the, that's the name of this business. Unfortunately, we don't consume it, but also I think when you're evaluating consumers, or when you're a consumer evaluating an operator or a provider, it's something to think about. It's something to look at. You really don't want your private jet consultant being a high consumer of private aviation. It just typically does not turn out well in the end.
Yeah, unless they're really, really tippy top of the game and have multi-billion-dollar companies. But no, for the most part, they should not be.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if they're flying in the front, that's a little bit different. But, if they're just an everyday average consumer flying around the world in a G550, then you should probably steer clear.
Red flag, red flag. Well, talking about red flags, I think that's a great segue into our Mile High Madness segment where we break down our favorite social media posts of the week. You were kind of flabbergasted by something this week.
I did. I tweeted again, as you guys will know, I'm on LinkedIn because that's where my people are in the industry. But really, where it gets a little bit spicy is on X. That is where the hottest takes happen. And unfortunately, I get tagged in anything remotely related to private aviation because everybody wants my opinion on it. And so I was on a trip with a couple of buddies in college, and all of a sudden I get a notification that I got tagged in a tweet. I said, let me go look and see what has been said now about private aviation. I want to preface this with Cody Sanchez and I share a few mutual friends in common. I don't necessarily have a personal beef with her or her business or how she runs herself, but I think she posted some pretty misinformed takes on private aviation in a master thread that I'm going to share here with you now. I did quote tweet it. I did dispute it live in the moment. I got a few likes on my dispute, but this is the cheat code to becoming a millionaire. Sell things to rich people. I met someone who made multiple millions from an $8,000 jet business. Here's how. and she posts a nice picture of her in front of what looks to be a Falcon 900-y type product. I know that there's something with the windows that you can notice which variant it is, but Tri-Engine Jet can spot that from anywhere. The wealthy operate differently. You can get 1,000 times the reward with the same effort when selling to them. That's why the richest salespeople in the world sell planes, yachts, and luxury cars. But here's what most people don't realize about breaking into this world. It's like, she found a private jet brokerage on a business site, a bidding site for 80 grand. She offered 40 grand. She bought it for $8,000. They then go in and quote this Honeywell real operating cost of a plane. I mean, it's like some of the data is not completely wrong, but it gives absolutely zero context. She then goes in to explain how Tia is a broker. Like, that is what she does. And
Yeah.
she makes 10 to 30% profit margins on each booking. Jesse, how many brokerages do you know that are doing 30% margins on their trips?
Actually, I know some that are doing a lot more. It's crazy to me. But
But those of us who
not
are
to
in
say
the
it's necessarily
industry, those of us
consistent.
in the industry who are in the industry know what that kind of means. Then she says you can charter a small prop plane for $2,000 to $3,000 per hour. Okay, if you're talking about a Cirrus SR22, that's way overpriced. If you're talking about a PC-12, probably somewhere in the middle there on wholesale, right? Talk about a King Airs on the low side. Large jets for $5,000 to $7,000 per hour. Are you making 30% margins on large jets by chartering those out for $5,000 to $7,000 per hour? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and see,
Guys,
this is, I think, one of the problems that like these folks fall into, it's hard to get your social media content to go viral, and sometimes the way to do it is like the get rich quick schemes or other things like that. So it's obvious like she's trying to get a huge following by making a post like that to inspire people to be entrepreneurs. But yet that's not really her target audience. So I always get confused on why people use that method. I mean, I guess she got a lot of coverage, but like, is it actually going to pull any actual business? I don't know.
right. No, I completely agree. I mean, look, it is a clickbaity headline. It got 600,000 views and counting. There's a lot of people that have said things. I also got it sent to me by at least 10 people who I know who own business jets that were like, look at this. This is funny, isn't it? And all this stuff that they're like, yeah, none of that. She was talking about how she was like, you should talk to her. She has a really great subscription model. And I said, a subscription model? Interesting. You mean a jet card? I'm like, just the thing is that the public's perception, and even people who are pretty smart at business. Cody Sanchez is not, she's kind of done pretty well for herself. They have this misconception about this industry, and it's like I almost make it my life mission to like call it out and be like, no, that's not how this works. That's
Right.
like, this industry is not for, and frankly, we don't want the type of people who think they can get rich quick to come into the industry. It's bad for everybody who's a good operator in this industry.
Yeah. Well, and that's, just brokers, and for example, I mean, you need to be educated. You shouldn't just be going out and buying a random business if you have absolutely no understanding of private aviation. Like, go get a dispatcher license, go get your pilot's license, like, do something like that first so you can actually understand the product that you're selling. But I digress.
Just unfortunate. And I think, the other interesting thing about this industry is that you have these people, and when you win big, when the dollar amounts are large and the winnings are relatively large, you don't have to do a lot of business to feed your family in a given year. And so therefore you can have someone who has a jet brokerage business that sells 2 business jets a year and then takes the rest of the year off and go lives in Cabo or Portugal or wherever, and just kind of chills. And that doesn't necessarily increase the customer experience in the long run, and it's how we get a lot of these stories of people who have gotten ripped off.
Well, so my social movement of the week, in a very similar vein, Amalfi Jets has really taken off. Like, their social media is kind of wild if you haven't followed it and looked at it.
It's
Now,
Steve. It's Steve Bersano or Colin from Amalfi Jets. If anybody goes, oh, do you know him? It's like I probably get that question like twice a week.
Yeah, I mean, look, he said, but what he's done, he's not trying to do some get rich quick scheme or, this business model thing. He actually goes through, and I mean, some of them are like obviously made up, some like, oh, my customer wants to get their dog to a nail appointment in New York next week. Like okay, some of that like doesn't really happen. But this one post, and here I'll play it now.
Most people don't know that on a private jet, there's one seat that every single private jet owner or the lead principal always sits in. Can you guess which of these 8 seats it is? It's this seat. The owner of the airplane always sits in the right seat, first section facing the cockpit, which is also why this seat, if you noticed here versus there, this one has all the buttons and all the controls because the owner always sits in this chair. So next time you're flying private, if you want to act like you know what you're doing, sit here.
This post has almost 5 million views on it. And he's actually talking about the VIP seat. He doesn't say it out loud. So, Colin, I think you need to redo your content and make sure you're calling it the right name. It's the VIP seat.
It's the VIP seat. And if you want to come talk about the VIP seat on the VIP seat, standing invitation. I mean, we can talk about the VIP seat and let's debate the VIP seat, arguably. I mean, I have seen the VIP sit in many a different seat on a private jet.
But I think he's actually doing a good job. Like he's doing this like educational perspective, like making it cool and interesting, but also like saying, look, this is informative. Even private jet customers should know, like, all right, if you haven't flown before, you should know where to sit. That's your seat. It's got all the controls. It gives you full control of the aircraft. But yeah, I like his method a little better. But it's absolutely wild to me how some of these accounts take off. Obviously, I'm not the social media maven that these folks are.
Yeah, I mean, we're here on our podcast giving our hot takes in the industry. Hopefully one of our clips goes super viral one day, but I think we might have a little bit too much frankness and realness for something to go super mega viral.
I just can't do the clickbait. I'm sorry, guys. I try.
Thank you for all of our loyal followers out there. That's so conceited. I hate myself for saying that, but here we are.
It's good content. It may not be viral, but it's good for a certain audience, and we appreciate you.
Exactly. Well, speaking of audiences that and the mainstream media maybe not necessarily understanding 100% of private aviation, Diddy's plane is for rent, and this is old news, but it has caught steam again here about 8 months later.
Yes, so apparently P. Diddy has generated over $4 million on his G550 since September when he was arrested. Operated by Silver Air, by the way. If anyone wants to go and charter that aircraft, look up Silver Air and see if you want to fly with them. Personally, I would probably order some cleaning before your charter.
Yeah, tough look to get off Diddy's plane when you arrive at a fundraiser. That's a tough one. You need to be pretty discerning with your destination if you're going to choose to fly that. Now, here's the deal: Silver Air, a legit operator, friends with a couple of the folks over there. They're great. It has nothing to do with who the operator is. I think that it's probably a situation where before any of this news came out, that aircraft was on their certificate and they don't know what to do. I mean, it's like, what are you going to like? Are you going to take the collect call from jail that's like, hey, quit chartering my plane? Like, I'm not 100% sure that that's the use of the minutes, but I don't know. I mean, heck, how do I know?
Innocent till proven guilty, Preston, okay?
That's exactly
He's
right.
like, I mean, it's his aircraft, you can charter it, and it was probably on their certificate already. I don't blame them at all. I mean, and I don't even blame the charter customers because it's a cool looking plane. Like, it's one of the only, like, matte black finished, like, G550s out there, right? Like, it looks awesome. It's just got an interesting history at this point on it.
Yeah, I mean, the passenger log on that one, not so sure I want to see it. I think I'm good. Like the guest book that's on the back of the airplane, like let's just maybe do away with that.
I'm surprised too, because I was thinking back to the Epstein aircraft. That one got, I think it was Trump or someone in Trump's campaign was flying on the Epstein aircraft that
Yeah,
was being
that
chartered out.
was recently too.
Right. Like I can't, I mean, maybe people just don't think about it, but like that got, some like serious like political coverage out of it because, here Trump family's flying on Epstein's plane that Epstein doesn't own anymore and has no involvement with whatsoever, but made good media.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, mainstream media will write a story just about whatever in order to generate clicks. And The fact is that this aircraft was available for charter a while ago. Like, it's been
Yeah.
available. And, he may be generating $4 million in top line, but the mainstream media is probably not thinking about direct operating costs. And nowhere in that media article did I read about Rolls-Royce corporate care. I mean, I'm just going to throw that out there that, the mainstream media may not understand 100% about this industry. I know that is a shocker to everybody else.
Oh yeah. No, well, and I just have to wonder, like, I don't know. I guess there's no way for me to really know what the current G550 rates are, but like, is he underselling just to make sure he has cash flow for his attorneys, or what's going on there? I have to wonder.
That is a good question. That's a good question. I wonder how you address that conversation with like your clients. Like, hey, by the way, airplane that you're going to fly on. I mean, you can get there on the tail number. Like, do you care? Do you not care? I don't know how do you have that conversation? And if it's cheap, I mean, there are people out there that are looking for a deal. And I mean, I don't know. Last time I checked, I don't think that the chemical properties of baby oil and jet fuel have anything in common except for, wait, I think they do. I was holding that one. I had that one prepared ahead
Good.
of time.
That one's good. That one's good. I think, well, it's been at least 6 or 7 months since anyone could have flown on it. So, I mean, how long do germs really like stay alive for? Like, you're probably fine. You're probably
Yeah,
good. I'm sure they clean it. They
that's
clean it.
very true. That's true.
Yeah.
Although, yeah. Before we let the audience get too far into that thought process, I think we should probably move on to the next one.
Yeah, let's do that. All right. So, flight options, uh, which is now Directional Aviation, FlexJet, parent company. All these are, part of the portfolio. So, an Ohio court ruled last week that Flight Options owes $24 million in unpaid taxes related to management fees of the aircraft, of their fractional program. And the company has been fighting this for a long time. This goes back to like 2009 originally, and the last payments due were in 2012. What's crazy about this story to me is that it's not due now. The IRS issued a clarification later saying, oh no, management fees don't count. You don't have to pay taxes on that. But from 2009 to 2012, this was kind of ambiguous, and so, but they still didn't win the case. It's like mind blowing. I don't think it's very fair at all.
I mean, you have to start wondering a couple of things. One, I am sure that Ken Rickey has some of the strongest aviation attorneys that are out there. I mean, they're the second largest operator of fractional aircraft, second largest operator, period, right? This is not, I would say that this is probably not for lack of trying. My guess is, and this is complete speculation, and please don't take this as legal advice. This is one dude's opinion. But my guess is that the court is basically trying to make some sort of a point and set an anchor. Because here's the deal. Unfortunately for that is it's going to set precedent. And therefore, anybody who operates in the state of Ohio is now going to be subject to that. Who's the other big operator that is in Ohio? NetJets is in Ohio. There's other smaller operators that are in Ohio. So all of a sudden, it is now opened up a can of worms based off of case law and precedent that is going to become a nightmare for a lot of people. I mean, you have to appeal this. I'm certain that it's going to get appealed, right? I don't see this. I think it's kind of unfair personally. Whatever you feel about taxation, it's like rug pulling somebody and changing the rules. And all of a sudden, oh, it was this. Now it's this. Now it doubled because you're bigger. Like, I'm not 100% sure that that's the spirit of the law, but I'm not a legal expert. So, I mean, I guess that is up to, the army of attorneys that Flight Options, I'm sure, has on retainer.
Yeah, I mean, well, this is one of the few situations in which being bigger apparently is not an advantage. But the judge was saying, yeah, like, because they're a larger company, they should have known this stuff. And it's like the law was clearly ambiguous. It was so ambiguous that people didn't understand, and the IRS didn't necessarily understand at the time. They issued a new law in 2012, making it very clear what was the case. This is not an issue today. So for any operator out there today, aircraft management fees are not taxable. But apparently the IRS thinks, because there was this ambiguity from 2009 to 2012 and Flight Options was fighting it, they still have to pay it. It just, yeah, I think you're right. They're setting a precedent for something else and they're trying to set a tone. But in the spirit of the law, it doesn't really seem fair to me.
Here's another interesting piece of this case. And I think It should not. I actually don't know what this means, but I think that it's something that needs to get called out. So Ken Rickey, for those that don't know, actually sold flight options and then bought it back. So he sold it. I wrote a little bit of background. I wrote this really deep dive on Ken Rickey because I personally think he's a badass. And I was like, let me, do a really deep dive. He sold the company in 2002, Raytheon. He then bought it back in 2009. And then he bought FlexJet from Bombardier in 2013. So what this is outlining is that period of time between 2000 and 2012, right, which is when Directional bought Sentient Jet. It's during that period of time that we're talking about that these outstanding taxes are going to be due. I'm sorry, but coincidence does not get, once again, dates and numbers that line up do not fall on deaf ears here. I can't help but wonder, like, obviously Directional and Ken Rickey, they're on the hook for these taxes, but like the fact that it all transacted right in that time period, like it's not like this seems a little bit too good to be true.
I mean, you have to wonder if, whoever was, Raytheon running it in between, maybe they were paying the taxes just out of like, oh, we think we should. And then when they took over, they're like, no, this is not correct. You shouldn't be doing this. And that's where the dispute and the audit could come from. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
Yeah, I don't know. And also, when does statute of limitation? I mean, I just can't help but wonder, when does statute of limitations run up on these types of issues? I guess it's longer than 13 years.
I think it's just been in the system that long. And I mean, let me tell you about IRS processing times right now. It's in the years. If you want refunds, if you're a certain size company, these things do not happen fast. I've also wondered how much interest is now due, because typically that also applies in these cases. I don't know how much they've paid. I know there was like 18 million that they had already paid in, so maybe they're not going to be hit as bad. But when the IRS wants it, they usually get it, unfortunately.
Yep, they're going to get it. Yeah. There's a lot of opinions on both sides of the aisle about the IRS, but I will say this: I don't like paying taxes. I'll just say, I don't know. I actually couldn't tell you a single person I've ever talked to that's like, I love to pay taxes. It's like one of my favorite things. So
I think that's a commonality between all of us. That's something we can all agree on in these political times.
Exactly.
Well, so we have two FlexJet stories this week because flight options is kind of separate from FlexJet, but last week, midway, where FlexJet had the runway incursion, they've now decided to close that runway because of safety issues, which makes you realize maybe the pilots weren't as much to blame in this situation if they had to close the runway.
Yeah, I talked to a few pilots that have flown regularly into Midway after that accident because, again, everybody wants your opinion on it. And I said, I have no opinion, but I asked some people what their opinion was. And every pilot that I talked to said, yeah, this was a matter of time. It was not necessary. Wrong place, wrong time, but it was only a matter of time before somebody messed it up. I mean, there's so many intersections and there's so many places to mess that up. And there's so many runways that it's like keeping it straight, even if you have, I mean, you think about the thing that the side of the issue that was all just absolutely going wildly after the FlexJet pilot in that scenario. I'm like, you have to think about, we have so much technology that tells you where you are in the runway and in the taxiways at any given time. Like, it has never been safer to taxi at an airport than it is today. And yet this incident still happened. I'm sitting here going, like, I don't think that this is necessarily something that you could put on 100% blame on the pilot. Now, report still is not out, to my understanding. Maybe it'll come out, maybe it won't. I mean, I'm sure that at some point it will. But you have to sit here and wonder, if you're going to shut down the runway, at some point somebody probably said, yeah, not 100% sure this was, human error. Or it was human error, but it's like infrastructure design error, not necessarily like you can't just pin it all the way on a person.
No, it's infrastructure design. And the FAA has been ringing the bell on runway incursions and excursions for years now because they keep happening. Because we may have some technology that helps you safely navigate an airfield, but there's a lot that we can be doing. The FAA, they even have a runway program, but they've only worked on a couple airports so far. And that's over like the last 5 years, I think, since that program was enacted. Where's the stop and go sign? As an air traffic controller telling you to taxi across something, I don't know how many real visual indicators there are and how much situational awareness you really even have as a pilot, other than just knowing your airfield and being aware. But in this case, they misidentified the runway. They thought it was a taxiway because it was so narrow. The sun was in their eyes. So they had a hard time seeing it in the first place. Like, this is all stuff that happens. And you can't just blame the human in the cockpit. You got to blame the design of the airfield in the first place. And I'm sure, just like DCA, this was a known issue. Everyone knew about it for years. Just no one ever bothered to act on it. And that's really the travesty of the situation.
The charter pilots that I've talked to and the people who run companies have said that this has been an issue. It's been a known issue. I talked to one guy that said that if you were flying into Midway, like, they're briefing twice or three times more than they would if they were going into any other type of airport, similar to how you would flying into New York airspace in order to navigate in order to navigate taxiways at Midway. So at some point you have to wonder, like, maybe we should have just been a little bit better at aircraft design and, emphasize safety over capacity or what have you. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I hope that this gets resolved, and I hope that maybe it spurs the FAA and the federal government to, really be thinking about these issues. The one hope that we have is if someone finally creates the infinite circle runway. You don't have the problem with the infinite circle runway. Are you familiar with this meme on Reddit?
I am absolutely not. That sounds interesting.
Somebody as a total joke basically made the argument as to why runways should be circles like NASCAR tracks as opposed to straight, because you could, in theory, like, land large jets on smaller runways because it's a circle. It was a total satirical joke. And it started getting quoted by people that were like, oh, this is actually a great idea and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Basically, like, bank it like a NASCAR track so that you could land the airplane and then it can slow down in a circle. And it was kind of like Scientology, which I don't know if you know, Scientology started out as like a science fiction joke book, and now it's a giant religion. Similar idea. It was like a total joke. Someone was kidding around on the internet, and it like kind of caught steam. And some people were like trying to engineer and figure out how to make it. And I was like, this is very obviously a joke.
Oh my gosh. Well, like flat earthers. Now you've got the infinite runway earthers.
Exactly. There is a very small group of our audience who totally knows what I'm talking about with the circular runway or the infinite runway. If you're not, I will be sure to link it in the newsletter so that you can see what I'm talking about with the infinite runway. It's pretty hilarious.
No, I want to see the theories. I mean, how exactly does this work? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody out there's like, I figured it out.
Oh my gosh. But I mean, truly, there's like so much that can be done that hasn't been getting done. But I think after the DCA issue, the FAA is a little more aware of, like, okay, we have all these reports over and over and over again. We have to start mitigating. And I mean, the preliminary report is out of the FlexJet deal. Obviously someone was able to act, which is actually a refreshing change that I haven't seen in the past.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, government agencies not necessarily known for, complete speed and complete logic. And speaking of which, I think I saw somebody say, for the first time ever, I have seen the fintech bros, the pilots, and all of MAGA get together and agree on something. And it's Jared Isaacman getting dismissed from NASA. And there's a lot of people that are pretty upset and sad about this.
Yeah, I don't fully understand what happened. I mean, when I was looking back on Isaacman's donations, like, and they said that he had already made this, aware to Trump, but I mean, he was donating to a lot of, left-leaning politicians, even as recently as like a year ago. So I think maybe that was the excuse, or is it that, Trump and Elon really aren't like besties anymore, and it was Jared who he recommended for the role? I don't know what's going on, but poor Jared, because he's pretty dang cool. That would have been an awesome NASA administrator.
I know. The thing is that Jared is a little bit of a legend inside of aviation. I mean, he has an entire fleet of aerobatic airplanes that he leads.
And fighter jets.
The fighter jets. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, he's a legend. I mean, everywhere he goes inside of aviation, everybody loves him. I think, again, we try and stay apolitical in this. Here's my one, maybe I'm towing the line on the political thing. If Trump is going to go after the people inside of his administration who used to give to Democrats, I'm not 100% sure anyone's going to be left at the end of the day when he looks up. Like you look at the laundry list of people that he has in his current administration, including himself, who used to give to democratic causes, and that's the line that you're going to draw. I can't
Yeah.
help but wonder if some of the claims may be correct, that maybe that's not exactly the issue.
Well, and this is coming just a few days before the hearing. I
He
mean,
was going to
maybe,
be confirmed like this week, and it was,
yeah.
I think it was like a unanimous like yes.
But I mean, maybe there's something that we don't know. Maybe the Senate, was investigating and uncovered some things they didn't like. Like, I don't know. But I don't think that Elon and Trump are like that annoyed at each other that he would pull his guy out of position. I don't know. Who
I
knows what's
mean,
happening?
I don't know. Well, and it's like, you got David Sachs in there, who's definitely an Elon pick. He and David Sachs used to work together. Like, there's like, I just think that like the line, if you're going to do this, it's fine, but like, probably tell us why. Like, because like the people are starting to get a little frustrated, I think, with some of these types of moves. I mean, you kind of look at like, let's keep this inside the lines of aviation, right, and not go outside of that. But like, you look at the FAA administrator kind of like craziness that happened right around the election, where it's like Alex Wilcox is going to come in, blah blah blah, right? It's like not great, and so it's like you need some continuity. They just announced like you've got all this infrastructure, you've got all this movement, and like you really and the whole promise was we're going to get practitioners in to run the government, right? We're going to get private citizens who care about their country to come in and make America great again. That's the whole thing, is the whole promise. To say, hey, I'm going to get real petty and be like, oh, I didn't like that you gave to somebody, but you're obviously qualified, you're obviously willing. Someone trying to make the argument that he spent a bunch of money, or like he got NASA to give SpaceX a ton of money. Issacman did. I'm like, yeah, because Boeing literally stranded astronauts in space, and SpaceX figured out how to go save them. Of
Right.
course, the guys who are doing the best work in space are getting the money. Like, come on.
Right. Well, also, like he's a billionaire. Like he's not
Yeah,
going to be influenced by different contracts and agreements and all that stuff. It's like the guy, he's fine. He doesn't need your help. So I don't know. I don't understand it.
I will say the one funny thing about, if you look at payment fintech people and pilots, like there is a ton of overlap with, like, I don't know what it is, but like Elon Musk, PayPal, pilot. He is a registered pilot with the FAA. You look at Issacman, payments, pilot. You look at not Jack Dorsey, but the other guy from Square, pilot. You look at both the Collison brothers, Stripe, both pilots. Like there is a pretty big overlap with fintech payments founders and being a pilot. I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, but also, like, I know a lot of surgeons, a lot of doctors that get into, like, I still think there is like this machismo to being a pilot, or to like wanting to be a pilot. I think sometimes when you become a pilot, the glory starts to fade and you go, oh, I'm not like this amazing, like, sky god that everyone thinks I should be, but.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it can be a little disappointing when it's your job, but if you're just a rich guy that gets to have fun flying your fighter jets, some of the only fighter jets, like he's got like a MiG-29 or something. Like,
Yeah.
man, Issacman's awesome. It's such a shame. It's such a shame.
Well, hopefully they can find someone that is equally as cool and equally as qualified, and get it in there, because I think that the race to space is on, and we're all trying to get to Mars, which I still can't figure out personally. Like, I don't get the obsession with Mars. Like, I really don't think we can actually live there. Like, everybody's obsessed with it, and I'm like, I don't think there's anything there. Like, me personally, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a space expert, but that's just me. I'm not moving to Mars. I'll tell you that.
No, I love space and technology. I don't want to go to space. I'm fine. I'm fine on Earth. But kudos to those who do.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe Jeff Bezos will then, maybe he'll be the new NASA administrator. I mean, I don't know.
Oh gosh, who knows? Or Zuckerberg, who knows? Like, I don't know. It's like crazy these days. But that's why you have us here at the VIP seat, to give you all the crazy news and all the things that you need to know and talk about around the water cooler, and probably some things that you don't. But that's the beauty of the show.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. And again, be sure to subscribe to the newsletter. Find Jessie on LinkedIn. She's always posting good, hot, spicy takes. I'm on X more than I'm on LinkedIn, but I'm on both of them. So connect with me, send me a message, tell me about how much you hate the show or how much you like the show, whichever one. Give us feedback. We welcome it. We love to engage with people. Be sure to follow us on all socials. I did set up the VIP seat LinkedIn page. So go look up the VIP seat on LinkedIn and go like it. That's my goal, is to grow our LinkedIn page, and we will see you next time on the VIP seat.